Hello and welcome to the Efficient Care Podcast, a unique podcast series that brings you conversations with healthcare practice owners and innovators where we deep dive into their journeys and business learnings over the years. I'm Shruti Mehrotra, Head of Marketing at Aerogram. In today's episode, we will discuss the ins and outs of sleep scoring with a very special guest, Will Spriggs. He's the president and owner of Sleep Center Services, LLC and ApneaMed in St. George, Utah. He has 25 years of experience in sleep medicine under his belt. He's seen and done it all. From working with patients running overnight studies, scoring thousands of sleep tests, attending countless conferences, managing sleep labs, writing textbooks, and teaching college lessons, to founding 3 companies. Will, we're so excited to have you with us today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Shruti.
I'm going to get into the macros of this sleep scoring in a bit, but first tell us a bit about your background and your journey. How did you become involved in sleep center in the industry?
Like a lot of us in the sleep industry, I started out as a night tech running overnight sleep studies in a hospital while I was in college. It was a great job to have in college because I was a night owl anyway. And then once the patients went to sleep, I had some time to study for my classes. I was a bit of a starving student, so I picked up PRN work at any lab I could find, often working 7 nights a week. This gave me experience working with a lot of different equipment, different patient populations, different protocols, and different settings. Once I passed my board exam, I was able to utilize that experience and write training materials and textbooks for other technicians who are studying for their boards.
What does Sleep Center Services do, and what made you start one?
When I stepped away from my full-time job to start Sleep Center Services, it was definitely a leap of faith. I had a great job working with people I loved, running a sleep company with 16 labs and 75 employees. At the time, a couple of sleep labs had reached out to me about doing some contract scoring for them on the side. And scoring was my favorite thing to do. I had a couple of young kids at home, so I decided to try and make it a full-time gig so I could work from home and spend more time with my family. I was able to quickly build a good client base and eventually hire some just really incredible RPSGTs to do the scoring for me. And since then, we've expanded our offerings to include physician services as well, such as interpretations and telemedicine consults.
Yeah, so what do you like so much about sleep scoring when you were young? What about it did you enjoy?
I love the technical side of it. It's always just been really interesting to me to see what happens while a person is asleep, what their brain is doing, what their body's doing. That's just, it's something after all this time, it hasn't gotten old for me.
Does it require you to be very mathematical and detailed when you're looking at the charts?
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of, specifically a lot of math involved, but also just kind of the mathematical type mindset. When you're going through and looking at, especially the brain waves, for example, the EEGs, really kind of diving into those and, looking at patterns, looking at frequencies and amplitudes and things like that. There's a lot of, specific math, but also kind of that general mathematical mindset involved. Absolutely.
Wow, that sounds technical. And let me ask you, what are some of the most interesting studies your company has scored?
We get asked to participate in a lot of validation studies for new testing equipment or even treatment devices. We've scored validation studies for companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple as they're looking to ensure accuracy of their new testing devices. It was really fun to see the new Apple Watch come out recently with sleep tracking capabilities in SpO2, because we scored several of their
Right.
validation studies. We've also scored research studies for both children and adults, some with seizure disorders, some with Down syndrome. We've really done a lot. It's always exciting when we have a new client come on board who isn't your typical sleep lab testing for sleep apnea.
Do you use an Apple Watch yourself
I
to
do.
track your sleep?
Yep. I don't have the newest one yet, but there are some apps that I use to track my sleep, and yeah, it's pretty fun to see.
It's so cool, yeah. What are some of the challenges that sleep labs face when it comes to scoring their studies? Are there any challenges that crop up when you score a study in-house?
The main challenge that seems to cause labs to reach out to us is turnaround time. Registered sleep techs can be hard to come by, especially in smaller areas. And the RPSGTs have a lot of responsibilities in the lab. So it can be difficult for them to get the studies scored right away with all their other responsibilities. We have a large team of just
Right.
absolutely incredible RPSGTs all here in the US who do nothing but score studies
Mhm.
for us all day. They do a great job of adapting to the individual needs of our various clients. And they're able to keep the turnaround time to a minimum so the labs can work efficiently. And this allows the RPSGTs at the labs to do everything else that they need to do during the day and have one less thing to worry about.
So, do some sleep labs have in-house technicians that score sleeps for them as well?
Yes, that's kind of the traditional
Right.
model.
Are these technicians hard to come by? Because you described how technical and mathematical this field is.
Yes. Like I said, especially in rural areas, they
Uh-huh.
can be very hard to come by. But even in more populated areas, it can be hard to find a a really good registered tech who meets all the needs of your lab because RPSGTs have a lot of responsibilities placed on them in the sleep lab. Usually they're
Mhm.
asked to manage the night staff, sometimes manage the day staff as well. They're asked to troubleshoot the equipment, score the studies. A lot of times they're working directly with the patients. And so there are a lot of different skills, um, and personality, attributes that are required to be able to handle all of those responsibilities. So it could be a challenge for sure.
Right. Have you heard of this person who goes by the handle of Lanky Lefty on YouTube? By any chance?
I don't
So
believe
he's
so.
a sleep tech. Um, you know this person?
No, no, I don't believe so.
That you So, oh right. So there's this sleep technician who, very much like you, started his journey with being a sleep technician when he was young and in college. And he is obsessed with scoring sleep studies. And he has made a lot of videos on YouTube and he, like, I think he goes and teaches even people who want to read their own sleep graphs. They can do it like if they follow him. And I think a few years ago, he got diagnosed with sleep apnea himself. And so he has become even more dedicated to um, this field. And it's really incredible. I encourage you to check him out. He's very cool and funny as well.
Yeah.
So, how has the field of sleep medicine evolved during the time you've been in business? Is it acceptable to auto score studies?
Great question. The field has changed so much over the last 25 years. um, and that kind of change can be scary for a lot of people. I'm a person who loves change, so it's been exciting for me. When I started working in the sleep lab in 1998, every sleep study was done in the sleep lab, and nearly every patient was a 300-pound middle-aged male because those were the patients who the doctors could identify as having sleep apnea. They were all severe. Um, Now, with home sleep testing being so much easier and less expensive for the patients, and with having so many screening devices and mobile apps and things like that readily available to the general public, then we're able to identify so many more people with sleep apnea and other sleep disorders. Um, and we're able to help improve their lives as well. You mentioned auto scoring. In general, I'm not a huge fan of auto scoring because I feel like it has a long ways to go. But the technology is improving, and if it's accurate and able to help labs get their studies analyzed quickly, then there's absolutely a place for auto scoring in our industry.
Quick question. Is auto scoring the same as AI assisted sleep scoring?
We're seeing the use of AI come into the picture for scoring, which I think is a great way to help improve auto scoring and help it become a little more accurate. It's not, it kind of is the same thing and it kind of isn't. It's essentially auto scoring,
Overlap. But
but getting feedback, from the score tech from a live person and then changing, its algorithms and so forth to become more accurate. So uh,
right.
we actually at Sleep Center Services, we scored the validation studies for one of the big AI scoring companies out there several years ago. And so that was an interesting thing to be a part of.
That sounds amazing. What does the future of scoring look like?
Like I said, AI is, growing, um, in I think a lot of fields, and scoring, the sleep field is one of those that we're seeing some AI, um, come into play. Most labs that I talk to still want to have an experienced set of eyes looking at the data, including the patient history and the tech notes and things like that, clinical things that AI can't really address,
Yeah.
and wanting the manual scoring with it. Most labs seem to be okay with auto scoring for home sleep testing because that's simpler and it's mostly just looking at sleep apnea. Um, you know, but
Right.
but in lab polysomnography is considered the gold standard for testing. And as part of that, most of the labs I talk to want to continue to use the gold standard for scoring those studies, which is manual scoring by a registered sleep technologist.
Do you think that as we begin to incorporate more and more auto scoring and AI based assisted scoring, do you think it will impact the way sleep centers are accredited?
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually, you know, if the AI scoring and the auto scoring is able to improve to a certain point, um, then I think eventually that will be recognized by the AESM and other accrediting bodies as, something that they accept and that they like to see and so forth. I think eventually, that will grab hold better.
Right. I've heard AASM are they're running a pilot program on this and they have their own data sets that they are standardizing. So we can probably look forward to a future where AI is going to play a big part in the way sleep scoring is done
Yeah, I
in our
think
sleep
so.
centers. So what is the most innovative and unexpected revenue generating strategy that you have implemented in your healthcare business? And how did it contribute to the growth and success of your organization?
Um, I think the most kind of unexpected element that we've added to our services is providing interpretations for home sleep testing, especially for dentists. Dental sleep medicine has
Right.
really become a huge industry, as it provides a great
Mhm.
alternative treatment for mild to moderate OSA patients. And we provide
Right.
interpretations for hundreds of dentists performing home sleep testing for their patients. And it's been really great to be involved in that sector of the field.
That's great advice for upcoming sleep centers or people who want to get into this business and don't have as much experience as you do. So thank you for sharing that with us. At Aragram, we believe that being efficient is your business in your business as a healthcare provider also means providing more patient-centric care. Therefore, we ask this question to every guest on our podcast. Um, and it's a fun one. What's the most ridiculous way you've ever solved a workflow problem in your healthcare setting? A short tip
Man,
or
boy, that's a tough one. Um,
so maybe if you remember you wanted to go home a bit early from work, and if you thought up of a shortcut to make things go faster at work.
as a night tech, you come up with all kinds of, crazy things to solve problems. Um, we had, I don't even know if I should share this. Um, so we had, I was working alone in the sleep lab, and this was in my first couple of months as a night tech, and had this big guy, probably 350, 400 pounds, um, who absolutely insisted on sleeping naked. And luckily he was my only patient that night. And we were just kind of in this dark corner of the hospital. And, so I said, okay, if that's what you need to do, I let him do it. And he had to get up to use the restroom a few times that night, and he needed help with all the wires and everything. And so I just shut the doors to our corner of the hospital so no one else would come in. The bathroom was down the hall, and this guy, he just had no shame at all. He had no problem at all just walking down the hall naked with all these wires on him and everything. And I was walking next to him holding his uh head
Sorry, I brought it for
gear
you.
for him, and it was it was a lot more embarrassing for me than it was for him, I think, but we made it work.
It's hilarious. Thank you so much for the lovely chat, Will. I learned so much from you today. And thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights with us
Thank
today.
you. I appreciate the time and the interview.
So that was Will Spriggs talking about his sleep scoring practice. He's a fine example of how healthcare providers are being innovative when it comes to running their practice efficiently to provide patient-centric care. We have more such interesting stories coming up. Please subscribe to the show so that you don't miss out on the latest episode. This podcast series is brought to you by Aragram.